I wonder if you could explain how conscious awareness of freedom actually arises within each individual.
It is only when you understand the nature of what is an individual that you can allow and connect with that which is conscious awareness or freedom. Freedom is just another word for conscious awareness. When you really get down to the basics. What is important, of course, is that when you realize you are conscious awareness, that you are freedom, and the individual aspect of you dissolves, then you can see life differently. The life that you have constructed is that which has been constructed out of the nature of fear. That which has been constructed is that an ego-based way of being in the world, because, again, we have said it is to do with the primary function of ego maintaining the physical body that creates limitations, that creates boundaries, that creates fear. But from a conscious awareness, once you understand that, then you can look at life differently, and you will see that these limitations begin to disappear, begin to lift, and beyond what was the limitation is a different way of being, is a different energy, is a different quality of freedom. The totality of freedom itself contains all different qualities, all different experiences, as is, as we have said, conscious awareness. It is the same thing, but only when the ego begins to recognize, or you can train the ego to recognize, that beyond the limitations and the boundaries that it has set itself, there is a different way of being, there is a different quality of freedom to be experienced. That is when you can relate away from that which is the fear or the limitations and understand freedom in its totality.
We hear of experiences that people have, perhaps near-death experiences or a health crisis, after which that person experiences a different perspective on life, or realises that they have awakened to a new set of values and way of being and thinking. Can you explain what happens in situations like this that are well documented? Many books have been already written by people having these experiences.
What is important is that the impact of the ego is diminished because it understands that it can survive major crisis, or it can survive major illnesses. But what happens is that the ego retreats and moves back into the basic function of what it is initially designed to do. It can and does let go of all the complicated strategies that it has created as a way of life and comes back to that which is basic survival. But at the same time, consciousness expands within, and there is an awareness that arises that there is more to life in terms of the nature of freedom, that there is more to life than just what the ego has put in place as a strategy to survive. And that is when conscious awareness and the marriage between conscious awareness and ego takes place, that the ego comes back into the service of that which is conscious awareness and not the other way round.
So what have people been experiencing whilst the ego has been in a stronger position, shall we say?
Well, they have been experiencing, when the ego is in a stronger position, a prison-like, non-freedom based way of being in the world. But it is an illusion. It is simply that which is the mind or the ego that has come up with the strategy because it feels safe, because it creates certainty. And that is what ego wants. Ego wants certainty of outcome. But what occurs is, in terms of conscious awareness does not need certainty. All conscious awareness needs is an observational role as to what is occurring. It does not get attached to judgment. It does not get attached to survival. Of course, ego is important in terms of the ability of a human being to survive on this planet. You need an ego. We say many times, do not kill your ego, because if you kill your ego, then you will not survive. You cannot survive on conscious awareness alone. Within that,
So the ego stops us jumping off cliffs or walking in front of buses or starving ourselves.
Of course.
So when a person has their ego back in check, what does that look like? How would a person be actually operating in the world?
Well, it may look like to other people as a non-reactive, non-emotional, non-feeling person, because ego does not need to express the extreme range, whether positive or negative, of a particular emotion. What occurs is that that person comes from neutrality, comes from that position of it does not matter what the outcome is, provided that love, in terms of that which is the nature of the vibrational frequency of everything, that it is experienced as an aspect of the love frequency. When you are looking at somebody that has a minimal ego, then you will see that there is love there. You will see from a vibrational perspective or from an energy perspective, love emerge towards you. Sometimes it feels quite uncomfortable for many people to see love come towards them because of the nature of their own ego, and ego finds love threatening. So what occurs is that there is a blending of love and fear, because ego is a fear energy. Ego can love, or it can accept that there is love in the world, but it needs to be taught that that is the position, or that is the energy that is coming towards it, and that it is safe. It is safe to be loved. It is safe to be highly conscious, that there is nothing in terms of the nature of ego and its lack of energy, in terms of the strategies that it has, the fears that it creates in order to keep you safe. There is nothing that love can do to it that would damage it as an energy.
I know we've spoken about this before with regards to neutrality and no emotions, that doesn't sound very appealing to many humans, because I think a lot of humans would like to feel that they could let go of the negative emotions, the fear-based emotions, but that they could live in a more balanced state of joy and happiness and love, as you say. So how could we enjoy those enjoyable emotions and still be, like you say, in a state of neutrality?
Well, you cannot. Because in terms of the nature of the happiness or the pleasure as an emotion that you get from particular activities, then that is what it is. Neutrality, it is an emotion, but doesn't look like an emotion. You say it is not an emotion because it is neither positive or negative, but neutrality is an emotion. It is stability. In terms of that which is a more positive aspect, then it is not stability, because you have no understanding of the nature of the outcome of it, because you are not observing. You are in that experience. You are pleasure. When you are in neutrality, you are more the observer. The more you move towards pleasure, the less the observer you are, because you become caught up in it. If you move more towards negativity, the less you are the observer. But there is that state where, from a conscious perspective, you can see and be in the pleasure, in the experience that is causing you happiness, but understand that you are not it. You are simply there observing it, that you are sensing the nature of the feelings and emotions that arise, but you are not judging the outcome of it.
So you can still experience it. It's a choice, but it's you're using a different perspective. So it feels as though it's coming from a non-attached place.
You are not attached to the nature of the outcome of what the experience is. There is nothing wrong with coming from the neutral position. When you say and understand and feel that perhaps there is something wrong, that it is not being human, but being neutral is part of being human. It is not the preferred state that most human beings desire. They feel that they should be having a happy life, that they should be existing in pleasure always, but that is not the nature of how the human life can be lived. It is not sustainable to be in pleasure for the totality of your life. It is not sustainable to be feeling happiness for the totality of your life. You must come back to that which is neutral. We would say to you, are you happy when you are asleep? Are you in pleasure when you are asleep? Are you in pain when you are asleep? You are in neutral when you are asleep. You are not attached to pain, or you are not attached to pleasure. And you need, we would say, to bring that out into the daily existence more and more, but with conscious awareness as well. Because when you bring conscious awareness, You see and exist within pleasure, or you see and exist within pain, but it is simply the observation of it.
So the ultimate goal, from what I'm hearing, is that we create a state of stability, neutrality you call it, but if we were to put the word stability and the observer position so that we are consciously aware of the experiences that we're having, then we can choose to be in the states of happiness and joy, and yet know that we are not those states. We are simply observing them and enjoying them as often as we want. But that's not who we are any more than who we are if we're in a negative state.
Well, what we would say is that the position of neutrality or stability is that of the universe, is that of conscious awareness, is that position where the universe comes through to observe what it is to be like a human being, what it is to experience being a human being, in terms of the nature of moving out into that which is the positive emotions or moving out into that which are the negative emotions. That is the experience that the universe desires to have. And you are, whether you like it or not, the universe. And of course you can contract yourself down into the nature of a human being. You are still an aspect of the universe observing what is happening. It is important to understand that ego can take over, that can give you the feeling that you are separate in terms of the strategies and stories that it tells.
I think I'd like to just look for a little bit more clarity, because